Hey, welcome back to another Type 5 how-to. A few of you have been asking, how do I vacuum out my pool? And since it's been a while since I vacuumed out this pool myself, it's starting to form a little bit of algae on the bottom. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you exactly what I use and how I set up my own pool vacuum and walk you through that process. So let's take a look. So this is my cheap but pretty effective pool vacuum setup for my small Intex pool. I picked up one of these traditional butterfly style pool vacuums that just attaches to an 1.5-inch hose. But pool hose can be kind of expensive, so I'm actually using 1.5-inch sump pump drainage hose, which is nice and large. I picked up some of that at my local hardware store. But that 1.5-inch hose will fit directly into the inlet of the Intex skimmer here that screws into the side. So normally I keep this inlet adapter on the skimmer screwed in, and when I want to vacuum out the pool, I'll unplug the skimmer and I can put my hose in and then attach that directly here. And then if you have one of those caps for the other inlet or one of those plunger type valves, you can shut off the one end so you have more suction coming from the vacuum hose end. Now, another thing that I've done to aid in the effectiveness of this is, if you can see here on this inlet, it has the screen built into it. I actually, before I filled up the pool this year, took this inlet out and I used a Dremel and cut away that screen. Only because I found last year when I was using the vacuum with this adapter that a bunch of grass would get caught here, and then I have to spend the time unscrewing this and cleaning it out. And it's not a real big issue, but I wanted the stuff that I was filtering out to actually go through and get caught in this filter basket here because it's a lot larger and I wouldn't have to clean it out as much. So again, I just used a Dremel and I hollowed that out, but this is the piece that you're mainly going to want to use to attach the hose in order to be able to vacuum. So let's get that hooked up and I'll show you how that works. Now, another thing you want to pay attention to before you actually start up the pump to start vacuuming is you need to have this hose filled up with water. Otherwise the pump will want to suck in a bunch of air and it won't work very good. Or you might get an airlock in your pump and you'll have to bleed that valve and get it to start again. So I like to submerge this hose as much as possible to try to get the air out of it. And then I'll go ahead and attach it to this end. So now it's ready to go. All I have to do is turn on the pump. And one last thing before we actually start vacuuming, over here on the filter settings, if all you have is sand or dirt that you're trying to get out of the pool, you can leave the pump on filter, and as you vacuum it'll just collect in your actual sand filter. But for larger cleanings, or actually if you have a good amount of algae, you don't want all of that stuff to get caught in your sand, in your filter. So for today, since I have a little bit of algae in the bottom of my pool, I'm gonna put this over to waste. That way, anything that's picked up from the vacuum will go straight to my discharge tube and won't get circulated back into the pool. And since I want to try to get rid of that algae, I don't want that going into my filter and going into the rest of the pool. And if you're trying to get rid of algae, it's a good idea, a couple hours or a day before, to add a good amount of shock to the pool, and that'll kill all that algae and it'll make it all settle down to the bottom, and then you can do this process and vacuum it all up. So let's get that vacuum going. And one more thing, while you're actually vacuuming out the pool, you want to make sure that you actually do this rather slowly. If you go too fast, it will tend to kick up that dirt or algae. But if you go over slow and steady, you should be able to pick up everything easily. And then your pool will be nice and clean and ready to go the next time everyone wants to go swimming. And hey, if you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more helpful tips in the future. Well, we finished the process, and this is what our filter basket looks like. You can see all of the mulch and dirt and algae that the basket's picked up, but our pool is looking a whole lot better. Now, the downside to filtering on waste is you do lose a decent amount of water depending on how long you run it. I was running this for about 10 minutes and lost a couple inches or a couple squares off the top here. It might take me about an hour or so to fill up the water that I've lost, so I got the hose running. But I'll throw a little bit of shock in the pool, and that's going to make it nice and ready for the next time we use it. So maybe you learned something on how to vacuum out your own pool, but that's going to do it for today's video. Hopefully I'll see you all on the next one.